Welcome back to the Vera House podcast. We've got another good episode for you today. We talk about a few different things. We talk about Scott's Edition's not so humble beginnings. We talk about some fraud. We talk about a new Uber situation that's going to be helping a lot of people out. What else we talk about?
Yeah, we talk about our own very humble beginnings in Richmond, kind of like growing up in the city and a lot of shenanigans and fun. We talk about some collapsing elevators in the city and warehouse parties. And we talk a lot about growing up in Richmond and what it's like to travel and leave and come back and call this place home, and the wild, weird, and wacky things that make us love this place. So I think you're going to love this episode. We got a new carpet.
We did.
What do you think?
It looks really fancy.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. It's bringing the room together. You got a whole like vibe in here now.
Dude, we're moving up in the world.
We are. Fancy, very expensive Amazon carpet.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just the most expensive carpet from Amazon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't ask the price.
It was expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been really enjoyable, man. I feel like the past few weeks have been some really great conversations, and it's been awesome to like see people's reception to what we're doing. And I like doing it. It's fun.
Yeah, man. I agree. This is something I think we both wanted to do for a long time, and stars aligned, so to speak, and timing worked out well. We got this really cool space with that crazy history behind it, and we got this really cool carpet. And yeah, we get to talk about some pretty cool things that happen in our city and just stuff we think is cool.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think, you've been in Richmond your whole life. I've been here not my whole life, but I went to high school in Chesterfield, and then I moved here as soon as I turned 18, and I've been here ever since. So call it, what is that? 18 years, something like that. And I learned my way around this place on a bicycle and a skateboard. And that's how I learned my way around the city and learned all the different areas and bounced around in a lot of different jobs and stuff. And I think future me, younger me, if you think forward and think that we would be people that comment on things happening in our city, like I would be like, yeah, that's not my future at all.
Right.
But it's been oddly enjoyable, and I feel like it helps us get to know our own backyard better because we deliberately spend time looking into these things much more than before.
Yeah.
And it's given me a new perspective, and it's just been, I like it. It's fun, man.
Yeah, man. I definitely think I wouldn't have considered this as something I was going to do in the future. I wanted to be an astronaut, and then I wanted to go into the military when I was in high school, and then I wanted to become a DJ, and I did that, and I'm still doing that. But I think the podcast thing came up a couple of times. I never thought about it as a casual listener, but you meet people that are like, hey, you're doing cool stuff in the city. You should maybe start start a podcast or get on the radio station or do this and do that. I'm like, no, me? Yeah, I don't know. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
Turns out kind of my thing.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because like when I think before we became friends, I definitely always thought of you as a social person. Like when I thought of Perri, I'm like, dude, this guy knows everybody, or at least everybody knows him. And I would almost have the opposite opinion. I'd be like, yeah, Perri totally be the guy who would like have a podcast,
Yeah.
And I think of myself, and like podcasting as a medium, I've always found interesting. And I've been a guest on a lot of podcasts. But when I thought about like being a co-host on a podcast and actually like starting a podcast or multiple podcasts or a podcast studio, be like, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't know if I see myself doing that.
Right.
And yes, this is work. It's a lot of hard work. But when we sit down and do this, it doesn't feel like work, which is nice. And I think in a little bit of a philosophical way, I've always really liked the idea of documenting just in general. And I think the more we do this, I really love the idea of being able to look back at conversations we've had and just create a cool library and directory of topics and questions and stories and experiences, all based on the city that we live in.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's a pretty like cool, fulfilling thing.
Yeah, man. I actually thought you would be the guy that would have a podcast. It's like when we started hanging out a few years ago and I learned more about what you do and what you're into and the kind of like the content that you like, the content that you like to put out, the marketing side of things. Like that makes total sense to me. You've read every book under the sun. You have a lot of cool, like, items and tastes, and appreciate different parts of the world and culture, and you have a lot of knowledge about history and facts. Why wouldn't you have a podcast where you can ramble endlessly about the things that get you excited?
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I think at the core of a lot of it, I think you and I probably have this in common, which is always taking the perspective of being a tourist in your own city. And I take the approach from a lot of the outdoorsy stuff and taking advantage of the fact that we live on the river, because a lot of people don't even consider that. And I've also traveled a lot, a little bit domestically and a lot internationally. I've spent a month in Africa, I've spent a month in the Dominican Republic, and coming back home, it makes you realize how great Richmond actually is. And I think for people who spend a lot of time in Richmond and they never get outside of their bubble, it's easy to overlook all of the great things we have here. And it's not really why we started the podcast, but I think it's becoming more of that, which is shedding light on things that are happening, just talking about the things that we enjoy, whether it's current events, stories. I know you and I both love like history and just weird facts and weird stuff. We've talked about all kinds of fun stuff so far on this podcast, but it is also about information and trying to share that experience with others, helping them understand what's cool here and maybe give some different perspectives on how to approach the place that you live or visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point, man. I up until a couple of years ago, I didn't really do a lot of traveling. Some vacations here, out of the country a couple of times, and mostly, visiting friends and family up and down the East Coast. So Washington, DC, Florida, North Carolina, New York. But up until like last year, and then through some work trips and through personal trips and the opportunities that came with the previous job that I was in, I was able to travel a lot in a very short period of time. And that's like the one thing you get from traveling, man. Everybody's always trying to impress upon people, if they don't travel, you really should, because you get a lot of perspective. I try not to compare every place I go to Richmond, but I can't help it. I go to Montana and I'm like, Montana is beautiful, but they don't have a river. And the one they do have is different. Richmond's cooler. Go to California, I'm like, yeah, LA is great. I like Richmond better. You go to New York, I'm like, New York is amazing there. It's an incredible place. But I'm there for 3 days and I'm ready to come home.
Yeah.
It puts a place like this in perspective, especially for people who have been here for a long time. You've seen a lot, you've done a lot, you've experienced a lot. It can get pretty, not boring, but like stagnant. Like, you do the same things over and over enough and you're ready for a change. Get out of town, take a week, go somewhere. You'll be homesick in 3 days, but you'll be glad you did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so easy to pick up. Like the fact that we live here makes it so easy to just pick up and go try something different. As you know, a few weeks ago, I just threw some stuff in my truck and went to Shenandoah Valley and just stayed for a night. And then woke up in the morning, I camped out in my truck, like got there, made a fire, listened to some music, just got away, just clear my head. And it wasn't like a big grandioso thing. I wasn't packing a ton of stuff. It was just kind of a pretty impromptu, spontaneous decision. Just went out there, caught the sunset, camped out in a field, checked out the stars, went to bed, woke up in the morning. I hiked Bear Fence Mountain and then drove back home. And doing that stuff regularly just proves to you that it's not that hard to just escape if you need to, and that there's so many cool things within an hour and a half of Richmond. And it's maybe a little cliche, but it is true, right? We got DC, And then you go down, you've got, North Carolina, you got the beach and you got the mountains. And it's like there's something to do in every direction.
Yeah.
And it isn't often that you find a city that has a river through the middle of it. And then you can go to the capital, you can go to the beach, you can go to the mountains, and you go to a totally different state. And Virginia in general is pretty cool.
Yeah, man. I know I definitely took it for granted. I went through my personal time period of, I've been here for a long time. I'm fed up with the places that I work, fed up with the people that I hang out with all the time. I was just frustrated and ready to escape. I feel like I remember most of my friends in probably like mid 20s, maybe late 20s, felt the same way. Post high college, you got into the workforce, maybe you're in grad school, you're done with school, whatever the situation was. You'd hang out in Richmond, you go and do the party life for a while, and then you're like, well, this place blows. I got to get out of here. I see everybody, all my friends are in LA, or they're in Chicago, or they're in New York, or they're in Florida. I got to get out of here. Richmond is just, it's too small. There's nothing going on here. There's no cool people. There's no cool this, that, and the third. And then you go and you might stay for a while. Some people have stayed indefinitely. A lot of people have stayed and moved and then come back and then relocated and so on and so forth. But you usually come back to visit, see family, whatever, and you remember why this place is cool. That feeling of I have to escape definitely fades when you get some perspective. You travel a little bit. You can, kind of are more assured of where you are in your own life and in your own world. And then you come back and you can appreciate all of the really cool things. Like this just reminds me of, I don't know if you heard about this curse. It's the Richmond curse.
No.
This is an urban legend we got a couple of urban legends on the pod so far. It's a Richmond legend about, and I may be getting some of the facts wrong because, it's an urban legend. It's the game of telephone. It comes from all over the place. What I heard was that there's a Native American curse that if you leave Richmond and you've been here for a substantial period of time, you lived here, you whatever here, and you leave, you will always come back in some capacity, whether it's for a short period of time or indefinitely. If your plan was to leave and be gone, you'll always find your way back here. And to make sure that you can leave and not inevitably come back, you have to leave the city down a certain street the day that you're leaving to get out of town. And if you don't do that, you'll always wind up back here.
Man, maybe that's why we're sitting here talking about Richmond.
Yeah, I never go down that road. That's exactly the problem.
Yeah. Oh man, we're trapped. Well, I think a lot of this is probably why you and I share a similar perspective on a lot of the exciting new things happening in Richmond. Hence why we talk about them, when we sit down every week, is because being similar in age and then seeing all the cool stuff happen in the bigger cities, it does feel like Richmond's kind of growing into its own, over the past few years, like post COVID, and things are blowing up. And now we've got the Amphitheater and Browns Island and, whatever's happening with the Diamond and all this stuff. And a lot of it does stem from traveling and then coming back. And you come back and you're like, all right, my opinion is I come back and I'm like, this is a good headquarters. Like this is a good home base.
Yeah.
And sure, at some point I'll get a helicopter and I'll get another property out on the river somewhere else or in the on the mountains or something.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm chilling here and it's pretty cool. And I travel when I can. And I guess speaking of travel, it makes me think about did you see the announcement that the Richmond airport made?
I saw something about it, but I don't really know about what's going on.
They partnered with Uber. And so now they're doing free Uber rides to the airport every morning.
For real?
Yeah. So Richmond, your 4 a.m. airport run just got an upgrade. Instead of begging a friend for a ride or sacrificing your own sleep, you can now grab a free Uber to Richmond thanks to GRTC's voucher program. So the rides go from 4 to 6 in the morning, and you can do one trip per day, obviously. But yeah, from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. And it's a GRTC thing. So but you have to get picked up at a GRTC bus stop.
Yeah.
So I think when you're in those areas, either it sounds like there's going to be something in the Uber app that probably pops up when you're in that pickup area.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's like a QR code on the bus stop sign or something that you have to scan. Yeah. And to take you straight to the airport.
So you can get a ride from a bus stop in town to the airport.
Yeah.
Can you get a ride home?
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't say anything about that. So I doubt it.
So like if you're getting a ride to the airport, if you're getting a ride to the airport at 4 a.m. for your 6 a.m. flight, the first flight's out around 5:45, that makes sense. And I'm guessing, you're not landing at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe, I don't know, maybe they will offer a ride back, because that would be great too, because some people are landing at that time.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, all right, if you take a red eye and you get in like super, super late, obviously you can call an Uber, but it would be cool if it was free.
It would be. I guess what's the word? I guess the ramifications of that might be, though, that then you're opening the door to give free Ubers to anybody who lands in Richmond, right? Even if they don't, where I guess the implication is, if you just give them rides to the airport, you're likely only providing rides to Richmond residents.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it now. So in the job that I had where I was traveling often, it was most of the time where I would go to the airport for the first flight out at 5:45. Now, where I live in my apartment, there's a bus stop across the street. Could very easily get an Uber to the bus or to the airport and just have to get a ride home when I land.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It is cool.
I like that.
It is cool.
And I'll say this about GRTC, and then we don't have to beat a wounded horse. Not the best. They don't have a great track record. I think they tried to make some improvements over the years, and there may have been some strides. I don't take the bus, so I don't really know. When the Pulse bus was announced a few years ago, I think everybody was really disappointed because we thought we were going to get a train. They ripped up the middle of Broad Street for miles, and they put in a bus lane that goes the opposite direction. It's the most confusing thing. Like, now traffic works, but it was such a weird way to do that. So kudos to the GRTC for making some positive strides.
Yeah, and my thought on the bus lanes and all that stuff is, it's Broad Street, and like, I don't drive on Broad Street. If you live here, you don't drive on those streets, right? Like, I don't take Boulevard, I take Robinson. I don't take Broad Street, I take Monument. Like, I take the roads that are faster so that I don't have to deal with that. Because as soon as you go to Broad Street or Belvedere or any of that, it's just like, often it's times people that drive on these roads don't live here. That's why they take those roads a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And sure, sometimes you can't avoid them, but I stay off of Broad Street in general, and the red lanes, to me, they seem like they work quite well for skateboarders, cyclists.
They work really well for the Broad Street bullies.
Yeah, exactly. And it is what it is. I last time I took the public bus, fun fact, I took the public bus to detentionary school for 7th grade in Orlando. So as like an 11 or 12-year-old kid, I was getting up super early in the morning and getting on the Orlando public bus for like an hour. I was like listening to Eminem in my headphones as like a 12-year-old, riding to detentionary school to go get in fights as a 12-year-old, and then, get kicked out of school and go back home.
Yeah.
And then I would ride the bus back home, and everyone around me is like, they're adults going to and from work, and I'm just like a kid. It's pretty surreal.
Yeah. Okay.
It's probably the last time I rode the public bus.
Fair enough. I don't think I've ever ridden the GRTC bus in Richmond. I think I was, when I was coming up, I didn't have a car all the time. And the prospect of taking the bus was always an option. Like, I went to community college and I went to high school in the county, like in Rico, Glen Allen area. And yeah, there's bus stops out there that could get you around town. I never wanted to take the bus.
Yeah.
I think I was too good for it when I was a kid.
Yeah. I took it in my early 20s. I was always just riding a bike around and stuff. So if it was easy to jump on the bus, I would do that.
Yeah.
The other thing I would do is me and my buddy Jonathan, we would go to what's it called? What's the food? Schaefer in VCU.
Schaefer Court.
Schaefer Court.
Yeah.
And me and my buddy, and I was not a VCU student. We would just stand outside because all these VCU students, their parents pay for them to go to school and pay for their apartments and pay for all their meals and everything. And so me and my buddy, we'd just stand in Schaefer right outside the entrance and be like, hey, you got a swipe? You got an extra swipe? And then people would be like, no. We ask the next person, hey, you got a swipe? And most people don't care. They'd be like, yeah, come on. And they would just swipe us in and we'd go in and just eat as much as we could. And we'd walk out with like 2 ice cream cones. And we would do that all the time, like literally probably 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And just that's where we had lunch and dinner and whatever. And we were not students at all. So we would sometimes like take the GRTC bus and just like fumble around the city. And I don't even know what we were doing. As long as I had $10, like we were good to go.
Yeah, that's good times, man. Yeah. Like you got $10 in your pocket, you can cause some trouble. It's a
exactly.
Good day. Like,
100%.
I definitely did the Schaefer Court thing.
Yeah.
I had some friends that went to VCU. I wasn't a student. And it's not that I needed to get a free lunch, but I was like, if you're going to let me get free lunch, I'm getting free lunch.
Yeah.
No questions. Not that it wasn't, and it definitely wasn't the best food, but it was free.
Yeah.
And you could like go buffet style, hook it up. It was a time.
Yeah. It had sushi, pizza, ice cream, chicken nuggets, like anything, man.
Just sitting there, hang out all day.
Yeah, exactly.
It was great.
Go and get like 3 plates and just load them up and sit there for 2 hours. And who knows,
like
man.
Just for a brief period of time, be a VCU student.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure people were looking at us like, what?
Wait, you're not wearing a sweatshirt.
Right.
Do you guys go here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No laptop or iPad in sight for sure.
No.
It's basically just a skateboard and like a grocery bag.
That's a look, like skateboard, busted Vans, like an old band t-shirt.
Yep. PBR in my back pocket.
PBR in your back pocket. That was a look. I mean, I'm thinking about like the different subcultures in Richmond, right? I remember noticing it when I was coming up because I lived in the county and not really much going on out there. Everybody's pretty regular in the county. When you come to the city, I had my friends that would come and visit me in my first apartment. We were all kind of in the same lane, I guess. We came from the counties and now we live in the city. And I started to meet all these cool people that were in bands and all these people that were musicians or painters and artists. And a lot of them were like, to me at the time, were just weird. I just didn't get it. I didn't understand why they always looked so disheveled and why all they did was want to like ride a skateboard or their fixed gear bike and like go to the Camel. I didn't understand at all, but I was so fascinated by like this whole like subculture. It wasn't long until like I was in the middle of that subculture. I started bartending at the Border Chop House, which is now Bovine Burger. Used to be called Belly Timber. And I would go to shows at the Camel. I'd go to Strange Matter, which is now closed. Go and see my buddy Long John's DJing at a sushi bar called Nara, which is where City Dogs is in the Fan right now. Like I was completely absorbed by the Richmond vibe. And like, it was the best thing.
Yeah. I was right there with you. Right there with you. Like with maybe like a slight change, right? Like I never went to see like DJs or anything like that, but I'd always be going to hardcore shows. We've mentioned Conditions, which they're not a hardcore band, but it's like in that whole world, going to Alley Cats and going around to shows, going to shows at Strange Matter, going to the Camel, bouncing around, just landing on some person's couch and just crashing at some random house party on Clay Street. And, man, it's a weird thing to like think about because it's very nostalgic, and you think about like some random basement shows and, I'd drive around the city every day and for the life of me, I'm like, I don't even know where that was,
Not a clue.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it if you tried.
Yeah. Like I remember there was these warehouse parties next to, I don't know if that Rite Aid is still there by VCU. If it is, like that's crazy. But there's that Rite Aid right on Belvedere, across from where that Citgo or Exxon used to be,
Yeah.
right at the main
Yeah.
intersection of Broad and Belvedere, and there's a Rite Aid there, and there's like this big warehouse, and they would have these parties in there, and I did actually see a DJ there, and I remember because I was like drinking a Bud Light, and the girl in front of me was just like dancing, going crazy, and I remember she like headbutted my beer bottle, and it just went right into my face, and that was a crazy party because the cops showed up, and this is an old like abandoned warehouse at the time,
Yeah.
and everybody rushed into like this elevator, this old elevator shaft, and it wasn't even functional, right? It wasn't like an electronic elevator. This is like a cargo elevator, like by rope and pulley, and it had a bunch of old cans of paint stacked in it. Okay. And like a dozen or 24 people slammed into this elevator, and dude, the whole thing just came untied, and the entire elevator just flew down, right? Slammed down on the bottom floor, and all this paint like exploded and went everywhere, all over these people. So all over everyone in the elevator. I wasn't in the elevator, but I was coming down the stairs with my friends, and we were right outside of it. And there's no door, there's no like opening. And all the paint went all over everybody. So that was like the christening of the party, it was the end of it. But like, you knew who went to that party because later on, like in the evening, you'd be at Sullivan's or something, and whoever was covered in paint, you're like, oh, you were at the thing. And I had a jacket that had like paint splattered all over it, and I probably wore it for like a decade. And it was like cool. It was like a naturally designed denim jacket. I wore it forever, and it had all these paint splatters all over it. But it was crazy.
It's badge of honor, man.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. And again, that's the charm of the city when you get like immersed into it, and you do what the people in the city are doing, and you get mixed up in it. Cool stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
If you go with the flow.
It's so fun, man. that like inner chaos where you just hop in the back of somebody's pickup truck and you're like, I have no idea what we're doing, but like it's going to be fun.
Oh man, just there's so many memories. We could talk nostalgia party scene for this entire show, but
we definitely could. I know. So speaking of elevators, I saw where you'd put a note down about some crazy elevator issue at the Cookie Lofts.
Oh yeah, man, I was on Reddit earlier on the Richmond or RVA subreddit, and there was a post by someone who lives at the Cookie Factory Loft Apartments, which is right behind River City Roll, and my buddy lives there, and the post was just like, I don't know if anyone else has experienced issues with the elevator, but I was in the elevator the other day, and it stopped and then dropped a floor and then stopped again. And then none of the buttons worked, and I couldn't get out of it. And I eventually got out of it, called the leasing office, and they removed the elevators and then closed them off, fixed them, so they said. And then like 2 days later, there was another report of somebody getting into the elevator, it stopping and then like dropping a floor and like stopping abruptly. So if you live at the Cookie Lofts, don't use the elevator because they didn't fix it.
Yeah. That'd be like a pretty sketchy feeling, right? Because I did have a crazy experience in Las Vegas, but that'd be pretty sketchy to like get in an elevator and all of a sudden it's just like sayonara, and you feel like you're just in a free fall, but then it catches and you're like, oh, never mind, I'm okay.
That is literally everybody's worst fear. Every single person that gets on an elevator is like, today's the day.
Yeah.
Today is the day where I tower of terror myself and I drop 30 floors in an elevator.
Yeah. Man, when I used to go to Vegas. I used to go to UFC Fight Week every year, like International Fight Week, for all the MMA events and stuff. And I was there in 2019 when the earthquakes in Vegas happened.
Oh no, that's crazy.
It was actually crazy. It was probably like top 3 wildest, weirdest experiences that I've ever had. Like very surreal.
Yeah.
Because I was on the 46th floor of the Aria Hotel, and I was dead asleep. And in the middle of the like early morning, all of a sudden I wake up and I feel like I'm on a waterbed. And when I went to sleep, I wasn't on a waterbed.
Right.
And so I wake up, and it took me a moment to like collect my thoughts and realize what was happening. And of course, in the Aria, there's these big glass windows. And so I look over, And no joke, the skyscrapers in Vegas looked like just wet noodles going like this, just waving in the air. And I couldn't tell if I was dreaming or what was going on. And so I stand up and I can feel the building waving, like swaying back and forth. And I'm like, I need to get out of here, like now.
Yeah.
And I go over to the window and I'm looking out the window. I'm like, okay, life's about to be over. It was crazy. It was so surreal. But about the elevator thing. So I run out into the hallway. I just left my stuff in the room. And I run into the hallway. And of course, everybody's running to the elevator. And my thought was, I'm not an engineer by any means, but my initial thought was, I'm not getting in that elevator, man, because we're going to lose power or something.
Yeah.
So I ran down 46 floors at the RVA hotel. I was exhausted and got all the way down, and it was a crazy experience. But
that's wild.
Pretty nuts. Yeah, pretty nuts.
I remember the videos. The videos I saw online of that were crazy. Just like you said, like wacky inflatable tube man buildings, and people are in the other hotels like, look at the hotel across the way. This is so crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's wild.
It was super sketch.
Yeah.
It was super sketch.
No more elevators. I think stairs.
Yeah.
Stairs are the way to go.
Yeah. And, my apartment days are behind me, but pretty much all the time when I've had apartments, they were mostly stairs. I never really I lived in one building that had like an elevator, which was over in Scott's Addition.
Yeah.
My rent at the time was $590 a month. That same studio apartment, is like $1,450 now. Same exact apartment. There's like hardly anything different about it. It's the building with the Crunch Fitness underneath it.
The 3600.
Yeah. And I think that was like an old CSX office building before it was apartments.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, I lived there for like a year and a half. And there was nothing going on in Scott's Addition. I remember when I lived there, it was so boring. There was nothing to do. The only thing over there was the dairy bar. And if you weren't going to go to the dairy bar, you would walk to the Starbucks all the way on Boulevard. That was the closest coffee shop. There was nothing to do over there.
Yeah. Damn, I remember that time period when like Scott's Addition was like not really a place where you hung out. There were some apartments and like Paper Moon.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
It was like the strip club and your apartment building and then nothing.
Yeah.
That was it.
And I like to go on a walk every day. There was nothing to even like walk around or do, and there was no other people. If you go
nobody
over
else
there,
lived there.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then sure enough, I moved out of there, and within a few years, it started popping off.
Yeah, that reminds me of this article that I read recently about somebody who had a hand in Scott's Addition's revitalization, like all of this stuff that we have in Scott's Addition, all the development, all the new apartments and the restaurants and shops and stuff, that happened pretty quickly over the last, 8, 9 years, 10 years almost.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember distinctly that period of time. There were warehouse raves in those empty buildings. I got raided by like the FBI. I was at a warehouse rave. All my friends were like DJing. I was DJing, and there was nothing there. But the guy that put it on, who had tried to open a nightclub where Wood and Iron is now, but that guy got arrested by the DEA, and we shut the warehouse down, or shut the warehouse rave down while we were all there partying. Stuff like that used to happen in Scott's Addition.
I remember that space over there when that little club was trying to open, or they were open for a little while or something. I do remember that.
Yeah.
And it was literally 10 years ago, because when I rented that apartment, it was 2015. It's crazy to think that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, man. Scott's Addition has come a long way. That's for sure. There's an article by Tony Harris of RVA Mag. The article came out, and I think they posted it on their Instagram. But Tony is the author. I think he's one of the owners of RVA Mag. It's a good friend of mine, and he has a Substack, which I'm not a writer, and I'm just now hearing about Substack. I know you have one now, and some friends of ours have one. This is just a place where you can just go and write stuff, right? It's just, like a blog.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So it's, I'll make it short, but Substack is a newsletter platform specifically for writing forward creators. So yes, mostly writers, but you can also publish a podcast through it. You can create a premium version of your newsletter. And it also has a feed, just like any other social media platform. So like a Twitter or a Threads, it has what's called notes, which is, again, it's exactly the same as Twitter or Threads. So you can publish quick, short notes on it. You can write full-length newsletters. You can also create like private paid posts that only people that subscribe to your newsletter can access. And then you can also publish audio through it. So like a podcast or even like a auditory version of your newsletter. So like when I write a newsletter, it could be anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 words. And I know people might not want to sit there and read the whole thing. So when I'm done with it, I then create an audio version of it and publish that. And so,
Gotcha.
yeah, Substack's really cool, but it's definitely for a very specific type of user and content consumer.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
It is cool.
I'll look into it. I'm not much of a writer, but I'll look into it.
Yeah.
But so I looked into this article and I read all the way through it. It's a pretty juicy story that kind of reminds me of the history of this place. The guy that was like kind of like a mob boss.
Yeah.
And was like taking advantage of patrons at the bar that he owned and doing dirty deals and getting arrested by the CIA later.
Yeah.
This is kind of similar to that, but this guy his story had an unintentional consequence, which led to the revitalization of Scott's Addition as we know it now, which is really cool.
Really?
So the article starts before beer taps, condos, before the buzzwords about revitalization, Scott's Addition's future passed through the hands of a single man, Justin Glenn French, a convicted felon whose empire collapsed in scandal. He set the stage, even if unintentionally, for the neighborhood we know today. And it's a long article, but it's a really good read. The gist of the story is this guy kind of came out of nowhere back in 1996 is when he got out of federal prison and came to Richmond. So he came to Richmond and started amassing all these resources and wealth. No one really knows how, but he started buying up old, decrepit, abandoned properties. A lot of them were residential. A lot of them were warehouse properties. And you remember back then, like Scott's Addition was full of that, just empty warehouses and whatnot. Northside, Churchill, Manchester were just riddled with these abandoned properties. And this guy came in and started buying them all up, starting to revitalize them and, stating that he wanted to convert a lot of these spaces into like green eco spaces and, bring back the vibrance of the city. So he's working with these developers and he's doing these large scale renovations and using his resources as an owner of these properties to raise funds from banks and from city officials. He's got, lots of pull at this point, runs across somebody from RVA Mag, starts to talk about doing a mural project in Scott's Addition. His idea is to have a muralist paint all over all of the buildings in Scott's to beautify it and make it look cool, have it like a, kind of just a walking gallery. And, at that time, murals were illegal. Graffiti was illegal. The only like muralist that anyone really knew of was Ed Trask. And he was being paid by the city and he's also being paid by restaurateurs. So this guy starts this, mural project idea. And then right as the guy from RVA Mag is about to follow through with the deal, this guy's world implodes. He gets caught for fraud. He gets arrested and sentenced to 16 years in prison. The mural project falls apart and all the development stops. So all the projects that he had with revitalization in Scott's and in Churchill just ended. What was happening was he was inflating all of like the construction cost and using the historical tax program and pulling that money and just keeping it all. So he was a clever guy, but he got caught in the end. What happened was all those deals that fell through in Scott's went to foreclosure and then got bought up by new developers. Those new developers started to come in and open up apartment complexes. At the same time, the city passed the bill that allowed breweries to sell beer without having restaurants. So this is the first time that you could sell alcohol without having to serve food. And we all know the first brewery to do that was Hardywood. And Hardywood kind of sparked this whole, oh shit, we can have a brewery and just use a warehouse. We don't need a functioning restaurant. We can just have an empty space and sell beer. So the Isley Brewery, Blue Bee Cider, Ardent, the Vale, they all popped up in Scott's Addition. And then like not even within 5 years, it was full of businesses and shops and restaurants and apartments. And all of that is because of this dude's flop with trying to swindle the city out of millions of dollars and getting arrested. That led directly to people coming in and occupying the buildings and turning it into what it is now.
Richmond has an interesting history of like clever fraudsters.
Yeah.
You know, it really does. Like, and luckily I think most of that is behind us, but it does remind me of even like modern day stuff that's going on. Like, I don't know if people know this, but there was this whole thing with this guy. His name is Ryan Leggett. And
I know that name.
Okay. So this guy, you know, when all of this COVID stuff was going on, you remember the like PPP loans and like all these people were taking huge advantage of all these like IRS tax claims and tax rebates and loans and all this stuff, right? And especially business owners, tons of people were taking advantage of this stuff. And then it continued for like years. It's still going on today, where you've got these people that are convincing, you know, business owners and entrepreneurs like, oh, you qualify for this tax credit. We can get it for you. And they say, yeah, like no worries. If you don't get it, then you don't pay us.
Yeah.
Right. But what they do is they get people to apply for the tax credit and then say, oh yeah, you know, the IRS has a really long wait time. So if you want, we can front you the money for a small fee.
Yeah.
And so then that's what they do. But what they're really doing is they're giving someone a loan, right? So they're basically bait and switching them into making people think that they can get this tax credit. And why would someone not take it? Because they're saying, yeah, it's, you know, and for some of these businesses, it could be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you're told, hey, yeah, you qualify for this because you have, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50 employees or whatever. Your revenue is XYZ. And yeah, we can get the tax credit for you. You qualify. Just fill out this form. It's a lock. You can do it. So then they get people to fill out the form and they say, no worries, our accounting firm is gonna handle it for you. We partner with so-and-so. And then they send in all the paperwork, right? And they say, hey, you know, the current wait time is about 8 months. If you need the money ASAP, we can actually front it to you for a small fee. And they say, all you need to do is fill out this form here. And then what ends up happening is they fill out the loan and that company, that guy is making affiliate commissions on referring the loan.
Right.
Right. So as soon as they make the commission on referring the loan, they're making just as much, if not more, because it's the same amount of money. Imagine it's $100,000 loan you refer to a loan shark or to a loan company or a financing company. You get a commission on that. And it's cool. You made your money, regardless of whether they got the tax return or not.
Right.
But here's the thing. If the tax return ever did come in, that money is going to go straight to this guy and his group. And then you're just stuck with this loan. And it's a total bait and switch.
Yeah.
And then as soon as people caught on to it, then he literally just said, okay, I'm out. And then went and partnered with a totally different accounting firm. And just rinse and repeat. And you just do it over and over again. So that way it's, you know, one day it's Anchor Accounting. Then the next day it's, you know, Liberty Accounting. Then the next day it's, you know, Capital Accounting. And you just keep doing it. It's brilliant.
Wild.
But it's quite evil. And
Yeah.
It's scummy. It's just a total bait and switch. And it's nuts, man. And with like all the Bitcoin stuff and all these different things going on, you know, the FTC and the FBI and all these people, they're overloaded with stuff like that. So it makes it so that like some random local guy can pull this off and just make a few $1,000,000 and it's no big deal. And nobody can do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because you go and you leave like a negative Google review. And once you get so many, it's just like, all right, well, we're done with this one. And you just do it again from some other brand.
Yeah.
And I saw where this guy had got a bunch of local people spun up in it, different, like pretty popular radio hosts and stuff, and was able to convince them like, oh yeah, you should talk about this on your radio show and stuff. And yeah, the whole thing's a scam.
Dude, Richmond is known for clever shysters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not good.
That's wild.
Not good. Yeah. You know, hopefully we're brushing them out of our hair a bit, but It's still going on, man. It's still going on.
It is still going on, man. And, I wanted to talk about this for a little bit, but actually, before we get to that, you have a bit about another clever shyster.
Yeah.
It's a woman, allegedly. She stole something from a Catholic school.
Dude. Yeah. I forgot about that. This woman. Okay. So this woman stole $239,000 from a private Catholic school and just spent it on herself. Like, no cover, no, like, there was, like, we talked about clever shysters.
Yeah.
This person.
Not a clever shyster.
No, not so clever. And I couldn't help but laugh at this, right? And the headline's just so great. Richmond woman stole $239,000 from private Catholic school, spent it on herself. So she embezzled $240,000 for, it's terrible, really. It's a Catholic, a private Catholic school that primarily serves minority families, right? So she's a minority woman herself, stealing from someone who supports minorities,
right,
and then just using that money to like send herself on vacation. So it's a school that serves like kindergarten through 8th grade, so primary school students, people that are in middle to low income families, including underprivileged students.
Yeah.
And so she was the school's business manager from 2021 to 2024, and she had like full dominion and control over the school's finances and their credit card and stuff. And, of course, she was only supposed to use that card for, official school expenses and stuff. That she, was told that she knew this and understood that, of course. Like, it's almost something that doesn't need to be said, right? Like,
yeah,
if someone gives you a company credit card, it's not like, oh yeah, take this and go get your nails done and go on a cruise.
I'm reading here this is on WRIC.com. She is further accused of concealing her actions by using the school's bank account to pay off her credit card and making false statements in the school's bank-related reports. How did you think this was going to go?
It makes no sense.
Like, you're just going to take money out and put it on your Capital One card?
Yeah. And it's just like, while you're doing it, you have to know in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm like, this is not good.
I'm going to
jail. You have to know you're digging yourself a hole and think like, there's no way I'm getting away with this, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's probably purely based on the people that work at that church or at that school.
Yeah.
And this person thinking, I can get one over on these people. I know that they don't check the bank account. They don't check the finances. They're not doing their bookkeeping because I'm in control of it all.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, how long can you pull that off for? That's ridiculous, right? Here's some of the things that she did. She went on vacation to Orlando, Las Vegas, Nevada, Myrtle Beach, and Miami. And she bought tickets for herself to see performances like Hamilton, as well as going to see LL Cool J and Capitol Jazz. She went on a Royal Caribbean cruise. She bought luxury items like high-end purses and jewelry. And she even put a deposit down at the boathouse in Rockets Landing for a party. And she even paid for her rent. And yeah, it's like, dude, what?
This is the opposite of a clever shyster. This is someone who clearly there are no more F's to give. 0 F's. She's going to get hers and doesn't care what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. You're done with whatever is going on. You're at your wit's end. I'm taking what I feel like is owed to me, and I don't care what happens.
Exactly. Yeah, and we know that for sure because what she reported it on the school's books was it was all construction expenses for the school.
And I guarantee you, she thought she was being clever.
Right.
She probably watched like a couple episodes of SVU and was like, "I got this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, as soon as you have like just a basic accountant, like you don't even have to be an accountant. Like anybody who knows how to look at a bank statement is like, wait, what is this $8,000 deposit for Boathouse?
And what is this $9,000 purchase at Louis Vuitton?
Yeah.
Labeled construction. Is this a new type of hard hat? Like, what are we doing over here?
Oh man. Yeah. Kind of ridiculous, right? I think
that's a good one.
Yeah, people are way overconfident in their ability to pull off crime. Clearly.
And I know that I guess I don't really know. I would assume that, and this is not a news story. Every so often, like multiple times a year, usually there are attempts at theft or like crime of some white collar capacity that's not a violent crime. Somebody trying to steal something, somebody robbing a bank, somebody robbing a store, somebody committing fraud on their company's finances. And you know that they thought they were going to get away with it. But when you look at the facts, the question is always, why did they think that was going to work?
Yeah.
I know they have the internet. They definitely thought that they saw something like this somewhere on TV, in a movie, or wherever. The idea isn't original because it keeps happening. So this is like a repeated thing that people keep thinking is going to work.
Yeah. Well, Richmond has some pretty infamous moments too, right? Like we had the army tank, just some guy stole the tank and just cruised on through the city, right? Yeah. What was that guy thinking?
He did not give 0 Fs.
Yeah.
No more Fs.
He knew he wasn't and bravo to him. Right? Yeah. I don't think he hurt anybody.
Yeah, no, it didn't hurt anybody.
The tank, cruised through the city.
I don't even think he got.
I love that guy.
I don't remember or recall hearing like what
happened.
Like severe consequences. I think there's consequences. Like he was on base at like Fort Lee or something like that.
Yeah.
And drove the tank. Fort Lee isn't near here.
No.
It's like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
In a regular car. I can't imagine how far this guy was driving this tank. Like,
dude, I bet that was the best joyride of his life, though. He probably definitely thinks back to that moment of that drive, just driving down the highway in a tank.
Yeah. Incredible. Right? Yeah.
It's like, I bet, when that guy, takes his final breath, he's going to think of that moment and be like, that was badass.
Yep.
But then you got the opposite. You got this guy, like somebody who's completely innocent that spent 45 years of their life in prison. So this just happened recently. So in a special meeting Monday, Richmond City Council addressed a $5.8 million payout to this guy, Marvin Grimm, for 45 years of wrongful imprisonment after a coerced confession led to a murder conviction. So you have law enforcement coercing him to confess and then just shutting the book and saying, okay, he confessed. Then convicts and sentences this guy. And then they had a vote on it to secure funds because fast forward to 2024 and he was exonerated by DNA evidence. So it's like not even a question, right? So it says Richmond is taking steps to pay Marvin $5.8 million after he spent 45 years in jail for a murder he did not commit. City Council will use funds from delinquent tax sales to match a state requirement, with the proposal set for a discussion earlier this month. So I guess that's already happened. But
yeah.
Crazy, right? And I know he's not the only person that has this story. This is like it's a huge issue because the thing is, people forget about this. Like prisons make money. These are businesses and a lot of them are privatized, right? These jails and these prisons make millions, if not billions of dollars. And so for every person they put in there, there's revenue, produced from that.
Yeah.
It's just a awful, like devastating story. I could not imagine. I mean, you've literally stolen somebody's entire life from them.
Right. I mean, yeah, their entire life is gone and was spent behind bars. The prisons, we all know, a lot of them are privatized and for profit. A lot of what happens in the prison is labor. The prisoners are working in some capacity, building things, making things, and that stuff gets shipped out and sold elsewhere. And the payout of, was it $5 million?
5.8.
$5.8 million.
And that's if
they can get it together.
If they vote on it and approve it, and if they actually pay the guy out.
Right.
I mean, and then what, are they going to tax him on that money because it's income? Like,
right. It's just, there's no making up for it.
Yeah.
There's no amount. Like $5 million, that doesn't do it. That doesn't make up for. The worst part about all of these stories that are just like this is the false accusation. The false accusations, the police coercion for a confession. It's a story we've heard, many times over the years. And it's been retold in TV and drama, and it's sad, it's heartbreaking every single time.
Yeah.
Because you root and you want ideally, I think most people want the system to do what it was designed to do, which is find justice in a situation where someone was wronged or done wrong too. And when the system doesn't work, you completely lose faith. You think it might happen to you. And there are numerous examples of it happening to everyday people. It's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then how are the people that caused this situation held responsible?
Right.
They're not.
They're
right?
not.
Either they, you know, who knows? Maybe they're not even alive anymore. But the thing is, like, okay, yeah, we go out of their way to, you know, try to make it right, which there's nothing you can do to make that situation right. But then what about the people that coerced this confession or fast forwarded the investigation to just get it done, or falsified evidence, or, you know, bribed a judge, or whatever it is happened? It's like, okay, get those people in a room, point a camera at them and say, okay, now it's your turn to explain this.
Right.
And it's like, explain yourself.
You know,
and then once you're done with that, it's okay. Well, now you're being convicted because you ruined somebody else's life. So now you go ahead, you march over here, you're handcuffed, and yeah, you're going to spend the rest of your life in jail because you did this to somebody else. But no, that's not what happens. You know, it gets brushed under the rug, you know, a couple $1,000,000 here, and oh, it's fine.
Right.
You know, Miss What's her name from the Catholic school, she could spend that in a weekend.
And
what does $5 million do?
And they make us think about coming up with $5 million and approving it and using delinquent. No one needs to know that you're using delinquent tax funds to pay this man out.
Right.
The money could come from any number of ample sources of resources and funds to pay this man. You're making a big stink out of it because you know you messed up, and now you're standing in hot stuff, and you want to make it seem like you're having a hard time too.
Right.
Because this is a hard, rough,
Yeah.
It's some papers to sign. It's not a hard time. This dude spent half his life in prison, and he's a veteran. He served 20 years in the Navy.
Wow.
The thing is about this story that we hear far too often is a lot of times, and I'll admittedly, when you first were bringing it up, was like, is he black? Because that's something that, you know, we hear often, or, you know, seen portrayed in you know, crime dramas. But this is a blaring example of the system completely breaking down and it having nothing to do with the systemic problems, whether it involved with race or social injustice. It's just the system is broken, and it broke when it was supposed to be helping someone who served his country.
Yeah. Well, it's similar to like homelessness, right? People think, oh, homelessness, what a problem. You know, here's the thing. Every huge problem we've ever had, any insanely difficult thing that the human race has ever been faced with, we've figured it out, right? We went to the moon, allegedly. The Human Genome Project.
Yeah.
Like, dude, there's so many examples of crazy things that we have had to accomplish, or wanted to accomplish, right? So let's think about the abolition of slavery. Let's think about World War II and mobilizing that. Let's think about the Apollo program. Let's think about building the Large Hadron Collider. Let's think about the eradication of smallpox. And let's think about the Manhattan Project or building the Panama Canal. We figured all those things out. But when it comes to, oh, diabetes or homelessness or crime, it's like, yeah, you know, it's just a terrible problem. It's really unfortunate that this is happening to our society and we can't figure it out. Meanwhile, on the other side of these problems is billions and billions of dollars being made, right? Like California did this whole homeless project where they like built these beautiful apartments, just knowing that eventually what would happen is the homeless program's not going to work. And then those just become these like $1 million townhomes. And that's basically it. And they're for profit, right? And dude, this stuff happens with all of these problems. And I wish people understood that, like, here's the truth. And it's like, all right, well, whatever the opposite of that is actually the truth. You know, it's like, so the truth is, oh, well, we're so upset that this is happening. And, you know, and yes, it is a systemic problem, but it's on purpose, you know, like it's intentional. Because on the flip side of it is revenue and dollars and power and political control. And yeah, it sucks that it's part of like where we live also. You know, we like to think that it's just, oh, this only happens in like tyrannical places on the other side of the earth. It's like, no, that's not true. It happens on a really simple local government level, you know, where people think, and it's just the human ego. It's like you know, it's disgusting and it's sad and it's frustrating and it's pathetic. And there are people like this that pay the price for it. A veteran, an innocent person that pays the price for someone else's greed and negligence.
Right.
It's like, so again, it's like, yeah, explain yourself, but they never will.
Nope.
And you'll never get the justice from it. And yeah, it's
a bummer.
Yeah.
And not a news story, unfortunately.
It's not.
Yeah.
Well, on a lighter note, there's good things going on. Did you see that Cobra Burger won best burger in the country? Yeah, Richmond, Virginia is the best burger in the United States. I'm sure there's many different ways to measure this, but they won this food face-off. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I saw that kind of pop up on my feed. They won best burger in the country?
Yeah. So on this thing called Food Face Off, on this thing called The Talk, it was against Minneapolis was like the final contender. So it was Cobra Burger from Richmond versus some other brand from Minneapolis. And it's a food face off on a talk show, and they made it into the final round.
Right.
And pretty cool. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of a great burger,
Yeah, that's the guy from Cobra Burger hanging out with, who's that guy? That famous guy.
I know, I forget his name too. But when you look at the two burgers next to each other, the Richmond one looks
fantastic.
Yeah, it looks great. The one next to it is I don't know, man. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's a great burger, but it doesn't look at anything impressive. And I will say, get this man a bigger trophy. The best burger in the United States.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. What news outlet was that?
8 News.
8 News.
Yeah. So
where?
What's this? WRIC, ABC 8 News. I mean, this is who. Oh, what talk show was this on?
Yeah.
Good question. I don't know. Hopefully not a Richmond one, because then it'd be some tomfoolery.
Yeah, it's definitely not a Richmond one, because I think that dude's name is Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah.
The guy that's congratulating and delivering the trophy. Yeah. He definitely needs a bigger trophy. Best burger in the country. How many people tout and claim that they have the best burger in the country. You know what? I want to know what Guy Fieri has to say about this, and what are the other mega food blog celebrity TV chef guys have to say about this. This is some plucky news outlet,
right,
from wherever it is.
Yeah, the comments are hilarious. The top comment is, McDonald's in Shockoe Bottom carrying the whole city.
Just don't get shot.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Someone said Chicken Fiesta has the best burger in the city. Yeah,
my first thought was Roy's Big Burger. That's been
someone commented
OG burger spot in town.
Yeah. I mean, to each their own burger, right? Because burgers come in totally different styles. Obviously this is kind of that messy slaw burger, which personally I'm a fan of, but many people are not looking for that, right? They don't, when they think burger, they don't think of this barbecue style messy, coleslaw, whatever. But I think that looks great. And also, man, I'll kind of just eat whatever burger. I'm definitely a fan.
Yeah.
What's your, to combine these two topics, right? What's your death row meal?
Death row meal.
You got one?
I think I used to have one, but that might have changed. I think when I think about picking a death row last meal, for some reason I go back to Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think there's a scene in there where they talk about your last meal. Maybe there is.
Yeah.
Or the Green Mile.
So this. Never seen any movie ever. Funny enough, I have seen The Green Mile a long time ago.
Yeah.
I've never seen Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, I'm thinking about movies where there's a scene where the guard's going to escort the guy to, lethal injection or the chair. And they're asking, what do you want for your last meal? And he's like, I want a ribeye steak and, greens and potatoes. So for a while, that was my go-to, just because I didn't know what do you ask for on your last day. I mean, I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I would, everything, all food possible.
Yeah.
Give me a Thanksgiving table size setup of everything that I could possibly order at any restaurant.
Yeah.
Asian, American, give me a burger, give me some sushi, give me some lobster, give me a fish, give me a turkey, give me a steak, all of it.
Yeah.
That's what I would order.
It's pretty good. There is a movie that I've seen, which is Law Abiding Citizen, which is Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx from a while back. And that's a movie that has a death row scene in it. And I think his meal was like just steak and frites,
right?
From some steakhouse or something. Dude, I might go just good old pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah. Straight up.
Actually, that's a pretty good one.
Like
a really good, like freshly baked crust.
Yeah.
Crispy crust pepperoni pizza.
Yeah. Dude, like I love pizza, man. I mean, who doesn't? But like, I love pizza. And it's, if you think about why people love pizza, is because it's the like easiest, best go-to meal. It's like, who doesn't love pizza? Like when you're a kid and you're going to like a birthday party, you're not even there for the kid. Like screw the kid's birthday. You just can't wait.
For the pizza.
You're just there for the pizza, man.
That's why in like corporate America, when the sales team reaches their like goal for the month, the CEO gives them a pizza party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's because pizza is like the gem that we all deserve.
Yeah.
It is the hidden treasure of the universe.
I want pizza now.
I know.
And I think we should just go to Zorch right after this.
I think so. I think it's time to wrap
it's
up
right
and get
down the
some
street.
Pizza.
Yeah.
That's a good plan, man.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
This podcast was recorded at Vera House Studios in Richmond, Virginia, and produced by Perri Young and Myke Metzger.